Hi, my name is June Chia. I'm a registered psychologist practicing in Melbourne, and I've been asked to present a video with some guidelines to help our community deal with the coronavirus. I'm happy now to share my work. Coronavirus and how we can overcome it without letting it destroy our spirits. What has happened? The coronavirus has hit us as swiftly as a tsunami. People are dying, families are mourning, the global economy is going into a recession. Humanity since the World Wars I and II have come to face its next challenge. This time, it's a war against a virus, not human enemies fighting each other. The Australian government, as much as countries all over the world, have imposed quarantine and self-isolation measures to slow the spread of the virus. In the midst of having to lock ourselves at home, new challenges face us. Self-isolation brings with it many uncomfortable emotions that can be very stressful and mentally challenging. Job losses, bankruptcy, the loss of businesses, a total loss of income have seen many of us thrown to the limits of our tolerance against the ugliness of human existence. The questions facing humanity and us as a society, and how can we respond? So in all this desperation, how do we cope? How do we still find hope and see the meaning in life? How do we have a will to go on when we are stripped of life and all its bare necessities, not knowing what tomorrow will bring? How about those who do not have food or enough food to feed their children? I believe first and foremost, for those of us who don't have the virus, the first attitude we should all have is the gratitude that we are alive. Because in still being alive, we know we can fight for our existence and fight to provide for our children. However, some of us may think that what's the point of being alive when disaster strikes us so bad? The point is, for every disaster that strikes us, there are very deep growing lessons for us in these difficult times. This is a time when we learn and we are reminded of the values of family love, simplicity, gratitude, patience, perseverance, and humility. In times of comfort, human beings do not grow much. We enjoy, we make a living, we do the normal things that buoys us to a state of normality, despite the fact that normal life, as we used to know it, is already hard, trying, challenging, and unforgiving. However, like the famous saying, what doesn't break us makes us stronger. It is in the dark times of the world such as this that desperation of humanity brings out either the worst in us or the best in us. The hoarding that we have seen in selfish buying at supermarkets perhaps shows us the animalistic side of human instinct when it comes to survival. However, we do not need to succumb to it. We are reasoning human beings that can practice discernment and hence leave the extra pack of pasta or rice for the next person. So, yes, let's answer the question, how do I keep hope up when there is no hope? Well, I believe a good creative response to that is we create hope and we try our best. What if our best is not good enough? What if our best does not sustain us? Then you go into survival mode. And in survival mode, you make sure that your spirits do not break. Spirit is defined as the inherent breath of our soul existence or our own individual existence in itself for those who do not believe in the soul. So, how do you not have the chain of life cut from you, from the inside, when you see no hope to continue? There's always hope, there's always a way. We don't determine the termination of our existence, life does. And as long as life permits us to live, we need to respect it and give it the best we have. And what if our spirits do break and we feel like giving up? We just rest for a bit and tell ourselves that the show must go on. We are not told to never rest. We can still rest. We can still take a break. We need to give permission to our minds and hearts to rest. We can do this by recentering ourselves through prayer, reflection, meditation, exercise, or doing yoga at home following instructions from a clip found on the internet or an app. We can still do something we like and enjoy, though we need to be more creative as these simple and importantly healthy activities need to be indoors. And then after we are recharged, we go back to walk on the wheel of life. Once we have rested, have more energy, have enjoyed ourselves, and have experienced fulfillment from a simple activity. In these times, how do you cope with suffering and unemployment? Yes, suffering is hard, especially when we've got no money, when we do not know what food to put on the table. In a developed country like Australia, we're lucky that there are many volunteer organizations and charities, and the government itself is pumping financial support to make sure that it can reach us. For those of us who are out of food and basic supplies, even though it's not a simple process, we can still look to charity organizations like St. Vincent de Paul or the Food Bank Australia. In matters of unemployment, loss of income, bankruptcy, inability to pay bills and other financial difficulties, there have already been measures set up by the government to support its people with these. The lack of clarity is something that the government works and convene on a daily basis to clarify such measures. It is clear to us as a nation that the Australian government is aware that it cannot leave us in the dry. The natural dynamics of our human complaints are stirring them into action. So now the matter is to buy time, stay well, not worry too much over things we can't immediately have control of, and just make the best of what we currently can and have. Easier said than done, you must say. But it does come down to my emphasis of the word patience for the coming support and being grateful that we are still alive to see another day. Now, there are not that many death tolls in Australia as it is in Italy, but I'm sure there are those with questions about death and the loss of our loved ones. So, how about those of us who have lost loved ones to the virus, or those of us who have, or know people who have contracted the virus and need to be in self isolation? How do we respond to our own fears of possibly losing them or our own lives if they or we don't get better. So here comes one of the biggest, most confronting, and the darkest question that faces humanity. It would not be wrong to say that in actual fact, death, for those of us who have a faith or some sort of spiritual leaning, or in other words, those who believe in an afterlife, are not as fearful of the unknown. How about those of us who do not believe in religion, much more a soul or a God? I then challenge you to reflect on different views and takes on perspective on spirituality that's meaningful to you. However, some of us listening to this may spit on that idea and think that, gee, if there is a God, He wouldn't let this happen. Well, we are not going to get into religious debate here. We can have a middle ground approach. We can meet somewhere in the middle by trying our best to stay positive, keep healthy, and do what it takes to stay alive, and to think to ourselves that even if our most earnest intention and effort to stay alive is not enough to keep us alive, we can go peacefully because we respected this gift called life. We can then make peace with ourselves as we leave our human consciousness because we tried. In the uncertainty of the journey in fighting for our lives, for those of us who are still mobile and able, let us show and tell our loved ones how much we really appreciate and love them. And definitely, it is on us to tell our loved ones who are suffering how much we love, treasure, and appreciate them. All gloom and doom. Let's not forget to have hope and also think that there are many of us who have recovered, and we can too if we look after ourselves with what the health professionals tell us to do and to maintain a positive mindset. I know it sounds too simplistic to reduce the enormity and the tragic loss of so many lives in a few sentences. But read deeper. These are ways to cope with a pandemic that will claim more lives and perhaps infect more people, and we need to face it with courage. That is not to say we will not have difficult feelings or grief. The grieving is inevitable, but the prolonged punitiveness of such tragedy need not be a tragedy. It stops us from living because in a state of such pandemic, life has to go on. And we need to keep fighting. We will mourn for the loss of our loved ones. We will cry and feel sad and desperate. But we know that they have fought for us and us for them. Those who lived, we can celebrate. Sadly, for those who didn't, we remember them and cherish them in our hearts for having been in our lives. Self isolation and social distancing. So, it's actually not just a mere civic duty as a citizen of this country, but it's also our individual responsibility globally as well in terms of containing the virus through self isolation and practicing social distancing. How do we cope with self isolation or having to work from home when we need to practice social distancing? In thinking about self isolation, our connection to our family and friends through the use of telephone and video conferencing technologies can help us to maintain a sense of connectedness to our family, friends, relationships, and the world, and it helps to provide stress relief for us. In self isolation, we need to reach out and request for the right healthy meals or food to be delivered to us. For those who are infected by the coronavirus, self isolation is necessary to get better. At the end of the tunnel is having an outcome of no longer being infected by the virus. This is time to be creative with our hobbies and the time given to us. However, before we do any of that, let's get out from our pajamas and change to day clothes, even though we can lounge around a whole day with our jammies. Getting into our day home clothes gives us a sense of purpose that we have entered a new day and separates our sleeping selves to our awake selves. Diarizing our day into sections and what to do between each, say, between the morning, midday, afternoon, and evening timelines of the day, can help make us more productive and enable us to structure our day better. We then feel more purposeful. Let's list down some chores and work related matters that we can do and want to do at home. It is a time we can do anything we want when we do not have to travel to and fro from work, especially when we have finished our work. We need to mark very clear boundaries of time that work should no longer be carried into our downtime and that downtime is for our hobbies. Obviously, this could only come when most of the house chores are done. For working parents, we have more time to spend with our children. We can YouTube and get some clips on different exercises that we can do. We can read books, watch movies, play phone or video games, cook healthy meals, clean, meditate, pray, do mindfulness coloring, reflect and journal, write a book, sew, paint, play music, learn a skill, work on a home based project, or do some creative online courses. For parents who have children, they can play board games and read with them. However, if one or their family member starts to fall ill in the midst of self isolation, they need to notify their doctor and get immediate medical attention. Social distancing has also been a required measure introduced just recently to prevent further spread of the virus. Lots of people were not heeding the strong message from the government and they were still having large gatherings at places like beaches. So this requirement was enforced and now non-essential activities are being banned such as dining in restaurants and cafes are not allowed and only doing takeaways are allowed. Cinemas, casinos and pubs are also ordered to be closed. Gatherings in places of worship such as churches are also not allowed. On the latest development of these measures, you can check the ABC News. I suppose as we limit our social activities and stay more at home or work from home, being in the face of our partner, family, and children 24/7 can be a bit much. What can help in these times is to find those little mini breaks that we can to get our own space, such as having a cup of tea at the balcony or sharing the task with our partner in looking after our children. And when it is time for us to take a break, even a quick warm refreshing shower or a short hula hoop session can shake our boredom and frustration off. There are families who are loud and do not seem to understand the concept of space. So when one gets the opportunity to disappear in their room just to read a book, take it. It is actually here that I like to draw our attention to this alternate perspective of looking at things when we are sick of our families or partners, especially when we feel trapped for an indefinite period of time of living with them and having to self isolate or practice social distancing. It is on the concept of gratitude yet again. But this time, let me bring in the values of love and compassion and the concept of mortality, all simplified in one sentence. And it goes like this. We should be grateful that our annoying partners and family members whom we are stuck with, while practicing social distancing, are still alive. They may not be, should they contract the coronavirus and fall ill from it. And for that, I want to appreciate the fact that they are here. I can love them and I can exercise my compassion in forgiving their flaws. However, I want to note that this does not apply to domestic violence cases. The next point is important. What I've written here is about our responsibility to the planet and mankind. Besides the necessities of hand washing, social distancing, and self isolation, let us come back to the basis of caring for each other as a basis to ensure the survival of our planet. We are no foreigner to the cases of selfish buying in supermarkets. Now, there are fears amongst us about the desperation of those who have lost their jobs due to the coronavirus impact on the economy, that we fear cases of looting will start occurring. There have been in the news as well of some leaders talking about releasing prisoners with less severe sentence back into the community to prevent an outbreak of such an infection in the prison system. Those examples that are mentioned send shivers to anyone even listening to these potential events that could take place considering the crisis we are in. So how can we not let it all fall apart? Well, we need to remind ourselves, especially in these times, that we need to not add on to what is already the potential upcoming darkness of the world, should it happen, by being simply as considerate as we can to the sufferings of another. Meaning, if there's just a kind act or deed that can be done within our own family, let's just do it. Not to complain, not to take one single moment for granted. If we can spare the last bag of rice to the elderly person who needs it more than us because we are more able to come back to the grocery again the next day, then let's just follow the voice of our hearts. We need to keep ourselves safe. We obviously have to be mindful of our surroundings and keep a watchful eye when the streets are quieter. We need to use common sense when a bunch of rowdy drunkards walk towards us that we then tell ourselves to cross the road. I'm not alarming anybody. I'd like for us to take reasonable measures to guard and protect ourselves when less people are around. If it's best that we do not go out, then let's stay home. If we do go out, let's go out in pairs with our partner or someone, preferably an adult, in a family or a trusted friend. And lastly, hope. Times are tough now. We don't know how long this will last. But times were also tough for our parents, grandparents, great grandparents who went through World War I and World War II. And they went through it and told us their stories and how humbled they were made to feel then about existence. I'd like to leave you with a quote from the celebrated Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl learned that everything could be taken away from a person but one thing: the last of human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. We still have a power of choice to choose how we respond to circumstances. Now, coming to the close of this video, I would like to draw your attention to the resources that have been posted by the Australian Psychological Society on their website about the coronavirus and tips on how to deal with them. To this, I shall sign off as another carer of humanity. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, and all the best. Thank you.